I'm Tanuja Ramchal, Career Advisor at the Graduate Career Management Center, and today I'm here with Wen Ouyang. Thank you so much for being here, Wen.
Well, thanks for having me here, Tanuja.
Wen is actually an MS in Information Systems student. He's graduating in May
2020.
2020, so next year. But I met Wen in March of this year. And your journey has been so interesting, which is why I've wanted to share it with other students, because I feel students can get so much inspiration from your story. So let's start from March of this year. You came in to see me because you had worked on your resume and you felt it wasn't getting much traction. So tell me what was going on when we first met.
Well, yeah, so basically I applied for grad school in November of 2017 and, I got accepted in January. But when I first started, I knew that I wanted to change my career. I studied psychology in my undergrad and, doing that, I was gained a lot of exposure to different types of like data analytics. But, I worked in operations when I graduated, graduated from undergrad, and, I didn't really know what direction I was going to. I was doing a job that I didn't really like too much. So I thought graduate school would be a great way for me to leverage, new experiences. But, I was kind of scared of applying for a job and not getting anything, which is prompted me to go to GCMC, and, I couldn't have made it to SAR without you, so.
And you were, obviously you're a career changer. You were working in operations. Your background is in psychology and research, right? And one of the things I remember when we first started talking is that you were still at your job. So you didn't quit your job and you were taking a full course load basically in the spring semester. And you were worried that if you left that job because you didn't have the skills, you were focusing so much on what you didn't have that you were afraid that you wouldn't be able to get another job.
Yeah, I think for me, there was a lot of fear stopping me from, I think, really reaching my full potential. I was blindly applying to a lot of places without really, reviewing my resume. I let a lot of these things get to my mind, like every time I sent out an application, I would think like, hey, I don't have Python, I don't have R, I don't have any of these skills. But it wasn't until we really started working on the resume and, the career program and the coaching workshops that I started to, think about how I can leverage what I already have to my advantage and embrace what I don't know, like, really learning to accept, like, what I don't know, I don't know.
And focusing, you were saying like you were sending these resumes and you were saying you were focusing so much on what you didn't have. And I remember that was a conversation we had as well. And initially when you came in to see me, it was like, okay, so the resume was not working because you were sending out resumes and you were not hearing back. And that was leading to like a lot of the fears as well that was coming up because really I can't make this happen. How am I going to make this transition? And I remember us working on revamping the resume to really bring out even the skills from your job in an operations role that allowed you to position yourself as a data analyst. So talk a little bit about that process because I remember when we first talked, I showed you how you can change this resume, moving your technical skills more to the top, and you were actually able to go back and take that experience you had in operations and really turn it around, not lying at all, but just changing that experience so that you were speaking the language of somebody in technology.
Yeah, so basically I wasn't really targeting my resume to the audience that I want to send it to. I was, just holding on to everything I've done and, just saying like, well, I'm proud of all of this, so this is going to work for me. But through, all of our interactions and all of the workshops, I've learned that, the resume is basically a tool that has a different audience. And if I want the jobs within data or within whatever field I want to go into, I need to make sure that resume is sent to the people that will be willing to see it.
Yeah, and they will actually be able to identify this as a great candidate because even when you started out, you were saying, okay, maybe I will become a business analyst or I want to go into data analytics, and you weren't sure. But also as the semester kept going on and you were getting more immersed in the classes, you were like, okay, data analytics is the the path that I want to go. So how did you come to that decision?
So when I first started, I was really open to both fields. I thought my resume, I wanted it to kind of target both and not really, focus on one or the other just because I didn't really know at the time yet. But, through my coursework, I ended up doing some case competitions. I began to really, fall in love with the data field. And I think the more I studied, the more I went to the workshops here, I really began to know more what I want, which really helped. Because I think when I first started, not knowing what I really want really, kind of put me a step back. in a way, I was just blindly applying to things without a goal, without a plan.
Right, because you wanted to get a job, and I remember like having this. I remember you saying that if I don't have a job, I feel really lazy, and wanting to get off of this job and have another job in place. And then after a conversation we had, you ended up like quitting your job and focusing on school.
Yeah, I will say that I think the GCMC really helped me get the courage to quit my job. Just because, when I first started, I held on to the fear, if I don't have this job, then I'm going to be broke, I'm not going to have any income, I can't pay for school. But I think, coming here and interacting through all the advisors here, especially you, Tanuja, but also just talking to other students and all of the, the career boot camps, made me just gain a sense that a lot of people are going through something very similar, and there's nothing to be scared about. I just need to accept the fear, which is essentially what I did. Is I was like, I'm okay with being scared right now,
right?
And I ended up getting the courage to leave my job, and with the time that I wasn't working, I was very proactive and still going to the GCMC, making sure I build an action plan of all the things I want to do, also focusing on my schoolwork. And I think like building that like pipeline of like what to do really helped me like
of all the steps that you needed to take, because that's one of the things that for you have been really, really proactive in terms, like I believe I see you at least every 2 weeks, and
it might be every once a week.
And once a week, because I know when you come, you make another appointment, and people often ask me, what do students talk to me about who come so often? So what do you talk to me about, Wen?
Well, it really ranges from like a lot of topics. I think in the beginning we focused a lot on the resume, and then we transitioned to cover letters, but we also did mock interviews. And I remember the mock interview was a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would be in full performance mode where, I was pretty much memorizing a script, very nervous. I wasn't really confident of who I am and like all the skills that I can bring to any employer. So.
Right, and that's something I remember calling you out on, and you didn't even have awareness that you were doing it, because I saw that you go into interview mode. So we're like, okay, so I'm here for a mock interview, and we're like, okay, are you ready? And suddenly I'm seeing a different Wen in front of me, and looking at what was underneath that, and of course it was fear, because you were feeling that you weren't bringing enough to the table, so you had to put on this act in order for people to want to say yes and hire you.
Yeah, I was pretty much, trying to compensate for something that, that I wasn't strong enough at the moment, but I really tried to, fake it, which in the end, I learned now, obviously as time passed, that it's not a method that works.
Right.
I realized that, especially through the more workshops here, that, the more I think about what I don't know, the less it's gonna bring me results. So, I think setting the time to create an action plan was really helpful for me. Where I embraced everything that I had, but
right.
I also, had goals to look forward to. Even in the summer, at that time I was applying for summer internships. I really, set aside like, okay, every week I'm gonna focus on this. I'm gonna do something very specific and basically work in small increments till I reach, the results that I.
Right. And I think, I know you quit your job. This is not necessarily right for every student. This was very unique to you because we evaluated your situation to see what was right for you. So I don't recommend everybody quitting their job if they're thinking of changing careers. That may not necessarily be the right path for you. But for you, that was really right. And again, it's just coming back to that, in terms of what we talk about. Yes, you started off with the resume, and we talked about cover letters and the mock interviews and, all the things that we usually talk about. But it's you'd come in and say, here are the challenges I'm facing this week. Here's what I'm working on. Can you help me put a strategy together for, where I want to go? Talk about networking. And sometimes it's just coming in and updating me and just using me as a sounding board. Because we have those conversations. I remember even one time it was in the middle of OCR, and you came and you're like, hey, I have this big trip that's coming up. Some of my friends are having a reunion in Europe. What do you think? And we went back and forth on that in terms of what you wanted for, what was in terms of what was going on at OCR. And you decided based on the schedule of OCR, that was the right thing for you. But you wanted somebody to work that through with because you weren't sure. So these conversations were not limited to, certain subjects like resume or cover letter.
Yeah, no, we really talk about everything here, honestly, from, whether or not I should go to Europe during OCR to, pretty much, like, should I take that internship in Chicago? I think a lot of it is, I think the GCMC has given me such a great support system, and I hope a lot of students can realize that as well. Is that it's not only just the technical support from like resumes and cover letters, but it's really to guide you throughout like your journey in grad school. Like a lot of students face such similar issues, and the career advisors I think really know what's going on the best just because they interact with so many different students like every day.
Yeah, and because I'd known you so well, like I knew, okay, so you wanted to focus on certain industries, certain jobs. Like I was sending you events that were happening, and I was like, this is something that you might be interested in because we had that relationship established. And one of the things I want to say, because you did all of these things, and suddenly networking started to feel very different for you. So what changed? Because I know the way you network, it's like it's what I want for all students, because it seems like very fun, very effortless, but it wasn't always that way. So what shifted in terms of the networking aspect?
I would say for me, my mindset really shifted. I think, in the beginning, like when I first started seeing you, I came from a really fear-based mindset where, everything was about, I need to land a job, I need to land an internship, I need a lot of things from other people.
So it's needy, yeah.
It was very needy, and, I did not came from a place of genuality. Like, I was not, really being true to myself. And I came to realize in the end that, the more relaxed I am and the more I let go and just accept of like where I am right now and what I want to work towards and what value I can bring to the employer, my mindset shifted. I became a lot more happy. Right. Not only happy personally, but, throughout networking, I became a lot more comfortable. I would take the time to actually speak with companies that I'm interested in working for. And through those networking conversations, it became very natural, because we were bonding over a common interest. Didn't feel like forced at all.
And being curious about them and sharing, from the perspective of this is the value that I have to offer. And it's so interesting because you talk about mindset shift, and I think that's the big shift that happened in you. And it was like the when like being this person who was always like in fear and am I going to get the job, and then there was a shift in terms of the Wen who was just having fun and going out there. Because I remember once you started sending out that new resume, you started getting calls like crazy from companies, and you were doing interviews, and then the first interview I remember you coming in and you're saying, I don't think that interview went well because I was trying to compensate so much for what I lacked that I think I was like over the top, and that was great feedback for you. So it didn't end up working out, but then you were able to course correct and actually start talking about the value, and we were able to shift that very quickly. And then you got 2 internship offers for the summer. So you were getting a ton of interviews after the resume was updated, and then ended up with two offers. So how did you end up getting those offers?
I think for me, like those offers, through one of them really came through networking. Once my mindset shifted, I became a lot more open and also a lot more comfortable with speaking with professionals. I actually ended up attending a summer conference in San Francisco, and through that I met one of the employers, and I ended up speaking with the head of HR for an hour, and I didn't even realize I was the head of HR. But we had such a good conversation that she ended up reaching out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, we have a position opening up for a spring internship, like would you be interested?
Right. And you went in for the interview when you got
and the other internship offers was through OCR actually. And I think for me, I came to realize that OCR was a stressful time, but it was just the mindset that I had that if I don't get anything, it's also not the end of the world. I think just like always staying curious and like seeing what's out there and being very self-aware that life is not over if you don't get any particular job.
And the one that came through OCR, because I know there were many companies, and you're domestic students, you actually could apply to many of the companies that were on campus, but you were very picky about what you chose. You didn't apply to all of the jobs that were that were open and you were eligible for. You actually chose two roles to apply for, and ended up you got both of them.
Yeah, so basically, within OCR, there's so many companies, but I think for me, it was really important for me to do the pre-homework and really, understand, like, why I would want to work for any of these companies. And I think like throughout the summer doing informational interviews definitely helped with that, like understanding like what type of personalities fit within these
Right.
companies and like what the dynamics are. And so when I went into OCR, I already had companies in mind that I would really want to work for. And the ones that I wasn't as good of a fit for, then I just didn't even bother applying, just because I think for me right now it's very important to do things that I want to do,
Right.
and not apply everywhere just because everyone's applying for it.
And you actually ended up turning down one of those companies because there was a conflict between the other company that offered you a job in Chicago, which is the airline industry. So you're going to work in, because you said that felt really good, when you were having the conversation with the people there, and really felt like it's a culture that you could fit into, and decided to turn down one of the offers you got from a Big Four in spring. And based on conversations you've had for the summer offer, you went and you talked to them, you got more information, because I know you wanted to extend your offer a little bit to gather more information, and thought it would be actually a good fit for you to see if that was what you really wanted, and ended up accepting. So not like blindly accepting because this is what this was the only option available to you.
Yeah, I think definitely once you get offers, it's so important to really gauge like what's in it for me, and also like what are all the personalities and people I'm going to be interacting with, knowing like the team and like the role I will be doing. So I think for me, after getting a couple of offers, I really relied on the GCMC. It was a good support system to really weigh out all the options and discuss like the pros and cons, like what I really want. So in the end, I'm really happy with my decision right now. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and so you're going to be moving to Chicago next semester and working in a full-time internship, and that's
I'm so excited. I think in grad school, a lot of times, I think a lot of students don't really go in their own pace. There's kind of a stigma that you have to go in under some pace and you have to follow these rules. But I think, as I've transitioned throughout my time here, I think it's very important to really do everything that, like, how you go, like, at your own comfortable pace.
Right.
For me right now, by accepting an internship in Chicago, I'm actually going to be delaying my graduation by a semester. But I think it's really good for me to gain some perspective and also see, like, explore like what's out there and see, if this feels right for me.
Right.
Gain some practical experience.
And I mean, I believe like by sometimes taking that time to figure that out up front is so important. It can save you years down the line, like to be able to take that time to really, and one of the things that you really did was know yourself, like understand yourself, understand what, and that was something big that we worked on, because we saw career doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Like we even talked about, you're saying putting together an action plan, and that meant taking care of your health. How many times were you going to go to the gym, like and you said like it's fun, like you make sure you go out and you have fun and you enjoy other aspects of life, and not just put like all of your focus on this. And as part of that, like you build your network, and and you take part in competitions, and you do all of these things that you're not required to do, but you do them because you're so interested in your field. And I think that's a big thing in terms of like really being interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, I would say definitely doing something for the sake of doing it no longer works for me. I think through all the times I've been here, at like these last 8 months I've been in grad school now, I think learning what it is that I like is really important. And if I like something, I'm going to go after it, and if it's not of interest to me, then I'll look into it. But there's always, you can always
the goal
say
is
no.
not to just find a job, it's to actually make sure you're finding something that matches who you are, matches your interests. And I think that's like one of the things that really stands out about you in terms of like taking that stand for yourself. And it's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I think it's such a it's just such a powerful message that you send in terms of doing that, and even just being a role model to other students.
Well, thank you so much, Tanuja. I feel like I definitely couldn't have done it without you and all the guidance in GCMC.
Yeah.
You're right. I think I see a lot of students here through classes, through my club, through events. And I think there's so many issues and problems that so many of us face, and I think it's just really about having a platform to learn more about what other people are going through, becoming more compassionate and
Right.
understanding.
And you've been so active in the coaching program, in taking part in that community, in taking part in all of the networking events that we've had, and taking part in all of the boot camps, the weekend boot camps that I've had. And such a great presence, and in terms of just even soaking that up, and the mindset shift, instead of moving away from this fear-based place of I have to get a job, and just focusing on what's important to you, and like bringing the value, and showing what you have to offer. So in closing, is there anything that you want to say to students who might be in the situation where they're in grad school and they're not sure where to go next, or maybe struggling to figure out what to do? What would you say to them?
I would say, definitely go to the GCMC, number one. Yeah, I think
And I didn't pay you to say that.
you did not pay me to say that, but it's such a great resource here from, Tanuja to all the other advisors, to all the career boot camps and, workshops. And what I really like through those programs is you get to meet a lot of other graduate students. Right. You learn what everyone is going through, and, you start to discover that, your problems are not just your problems. Everyone has similar problems. Right. And I think from there you can really, change your mindset, and really start to become more self-aware and understand what you really want as out of your career, out of your grad school experience. And I think most importantly is not don't forget to have fun along the way.
Right.
I think taking the time to hang out with some of your classmates, even going to the gym, I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I think with you is not just focusing on strategy, but also working on the mindset first, and then focusing on strategy, because that's when it really, really works, and when it takes effects, because we see the results with you. So thank you so much, Wen. It was such a pleasure talking with you, and I know a lot of students are going to benefit greatly from this interview.
Thank you.